back to another edition of Two Mics All Sports. I'm your host, Zach Chavy, with my co-host, Joe Brolin. Today we got a special guest, Spino. What's going on, man?
What's up, Zach and Joe?
What's up, Mike?
All right, so this is mostly gonna be a week two reactions, our thoughts about everything, but we're gonna kick off with the Eagles game. Obviously, it was a close game throughout. They ended up winning 2017. Let's start off with you, Spino. What were your overall thoughts on the game?
It was a tough win. The Eagles' offense started to get rolling a little better. The run offense and the pass offense was a little shaky.
I beg to differ there, Spino. I feel like Barkley had a good game. The passing, yes, but you set the ball rolling with Barkley on the first couple drives. Obviously, he had that rushing touchdown, and then the tush push always works. So I feel like you had a good game. You're going up against one of the best teams over the past few years. So it's good to prove that you can beat these good teams.
Yeah, I found it very interesting. The one thing I will take out of this game is the defense looked 10 times better all throughout the game, just not the second half like they did in Dallas. Vic Fangio sending blitz against Kansas City was definitely a surprise, but I'm not surprised also at the same time because he was able to be confident in running man coverage because the Chiefs didn't have their best guys. I really liked the blitz package he's able to show, and the defense just looked great as a whole. But something I'm really concerned about is Kevin Patullo because the first two games, this has looked like 2023 all over again, and I don't want to go back to these. I don't want to go back to that. So the offense, I think they need to find consistency. You have two of the best receivers in the game. You saw what A.J. Brown's able to do when he gets the ball in his hand. That one-hand catch was, I know it's like a short yardage play, but for him being able to catch that is just absolutely insane. And then Devontae Smith made that huge catch to get us down into the end zone, reminding me of the Chiefs game 2 years ago when we won in Arrowhead. So I think the offense, the one thing I don't want to hear Jalen Hurts slander. He's not been playing bad. He's been put in tough situations. You're giving him play calls where these receivers are running in the same vicinity, and you expect him to make a play out of that. And the pass rush, our offensive line, I don't know if this is just me. They've seen a little shaky. I know Steve Spagnuolo loves to run blitzes. He's one of the best, if not the best, at running them. The offensive line has looked shaky, and just because Kevin Patullo has not been able to run a balanced offense when it comes to the passing game, it hasn't resulted well for Jalen in passing games. Like, he doesn't even have a passing touchdown so far this year. I know it's week 2. I know there's a lot to establish and stuff like that, but early on, there's cause for concern with the offense. But what I want to ask you guys, obviously the tush push, they used it a little bit more in this game, but a lot of people were complaining that they were offsides or just overall and like that. How are you guys just feeling about what everyone's saying, if you guys have seen it, like, at least today?
I've seen a lot of things on it today, but you got to also remember last year. People are always going to say they line up both sides, but I've seen videos where the defense also lines up head over the ball. So if you're going to call that, then you're going to have to call it both ways. The refs, there's a ref for a reason to spot where the ball is, and they have a clear line of vision. So if they're all sides, then they're going to call it. So, and then at that point, it's just man on man, low man wins on the O-line. I know that playing football for 4 years at Judge, it's all about strength at that point and whoever can get the most push and best strategy. And the Eagles have been utilizing that. You can't hurt a team for utilizing a play that's been working. What are you going to do? Ban a Hail Mary every time it works? Fail the blitzes? Stop blitzing because you're sacking the quarterback too much? Because you're beating if something works, you stay with it.
Spino?
There's multiple teams that use like some type of the tush push. Like the Chiefs, they used it. The Bills use it a lot with Josh Allen. They go right to the left with Deion Dawkins right behind him.
Yeah.
So it's going to hurt the whole NFL, and it's just a play. And like Joe said, you can't ban every play that works.
Exactly. And I mean, at the end of the day, I like how you mentioned both sides do it. Like, obviously, and I feel like the Chiefs, out of everyone, are the least team to talk because they get the most penalties. Like, one thing that I want to talk about, moving on from the tush push, I don't know if you guys saw this, but you probably did. How do you call an unnecessary roughness on a play, or roughing the passer on a player when he just slightly taps him on the helmet? Like, I thought that was completely unacceptable, and it's just, I know it's not even like the Chiefs at this point. Like we could go on and on about them, but it's about these other teams too. The NFL is just becoming more soft and soft as the season goes on. The less you can do, like it's insane. But I mean, at the end of the day, the defense, like I said, looked good. The offense, there's some things to be concerned about, but I'm mostly looking forward to this Week 3 game. What do you think is going to be more impactful against the Rams for both of you guys, the defense or the offense?
Offense, I think the O line really has their work cut out for them with the strong D line of the Rams. We saw how it was last year in the Snow Bowl and how big of a game Barkley had for us. So I feel like the Rams D line is going to try to be they're going to stay patient in their gaps, and they're going to try to prevent that from happening again, which should open up room for A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith to have those big games that we were expecting them to have throughout the first 2 weeks.
I'm gonna go with the secondary. They have Puka Nakua and Devontae Adams, so I want to see how they handle them too. That's my focus for the Week 3 matchup.
Yeah, that's what I'm very much looking into because what we've seen is Adoree Jackson even struggled. I think as of right now, doesn't seem like they're making any changes with him, which I just find completely frustrating at this point. It's tough to watch, and we're kind of in the same scenario we were in Week 1 with the Cowboys with George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, and these two are, if not like the same, but even better. The way Puka Nakua is being able, and Devontae Adams is still one of the best route runners in the game. He's not top tier number 1 anymore, but the way he's able to run routes and having Puka Nakua there. You saw it last year when I know we beat them pretty well in LA, but they gave us problems with Nakua, and then Cooper Kupp was obviously playing. I think the secondary, I go back to like you said with the offense. I'm looking at the second, but the offense, they gotta be able to. This is a game where the Rams offense I feel like is going to be firing on all cylinders, and the defense is going to try their best, but they're going to put points up on the board, and the Eagles I think are going to at least need to have close to or over 30 points this week to beat the Rams. Like I think it's going to be that type of game. It's going to be very close. It's not. I don't expect it to be a blowout in any way on either side. But both offenses are very good and balanced to where they can go back and forth. But the offense needs to be able to have that ability to not only run the ball but pass the ball. Obviously, last year when we played the Rams, we destroyed them in the run game. They're going to be planning for that all week. You need to find a balanced offense. Get A.J. Brown in the middle of the field. Get Devontae Smith on the deep plays or the comeback routes. Get these guys moving all across the field, and you'll see plays open up. It'll be interesting to see if Dallas Goedert comes back this week because obviously he was a big target for Jalen Hurts in Week 1. So maybe if he comes back, it can open the field, and these receivers can finally start to develop and get into these games because it just doesn't seem like they make any impact in these games, at least the first 2 games, and we're just getting out of these games surviving. I want to see a balanced enough offense, and I would like to see a 10-point win that we had pretty much solidified, and our offense looked good, and our defense was able to make timely stops. If we get those 2 things, I'll be very satisfied. But it will remain to be seen. It's coming down to Kevin Patullo. Obviously, it's as of right now, like I said, it seems like we're going down the same scenario we were in 2023, like close games, our offense looking very shaky. He needs to prove that he's not the same as Brian Johnson and doesn't run the same bland offense. And basically, he's a scapegoat like Brian Johnson was, because we already know Sirianni had his input, but like that's a whole nother story for another time. But basically, like he needs to show that he's an NFL offensive coordinator. I know it wasn't the easiest going up against Spagnuolo. It's never easy, no matter if you're an offensive guru. But I think it's very interesting to see. But we're going to move on from the Eagles, obviously. They're 2-0. But we're going to talk about, like we did, me and Joe last week, we're going to give our thoughts. Joe, you have your 2 thoughts. Let me see what you got.
My first thought is the Steelers. I feel like their defense, like both of my points had to deal with the Steelers. First off, their defense, I feel like Jalen Ramsey is the only one that is really giving effort. Obviously, that's not true, but that's the way it seems, especially after they lose by that score this week to the Seahawks, who personally aren't even that good. You have Cooper Kupp. That's really all you really have to worry about on that team. And your defense gives up 40. And then is Aaron Rodgers the quarterback that they wanted? You get rid of Fields. and you brought in Rodgers thinking, all right, he's a vet. Maybe he could be a playmaker. He knows the system. He knows the way teams are and how their outcome is. But it's not – I just feel like he's old. He's not producing the way that they were hoping. So will they need to make a change within these next few weeks in order to – if they want to make the playoffs? Because their defense on paper should be good and carry them to that way. They have good receivers. So it's all about production for the Steelers team.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting that you hit on that point because what I've seen, it's been so unorthodox. Their defense has not been good the first 2 weeks of the season. They let Justin Fields absolutely go up and down the field with them, and he looked great. I think he had 4 total touchdowns. And then even this week, Sam Darnold looked like a balanced quarterback. Like he looked like he did last week, but in difference, they were able to get the win. He was getting it to all his targets. He was getting it to JSN. You mentioned Cooper Kupp. They actually got it to A.J. Barner, I believe, their tight end. And then Kenneth Walker had a decent rushing game. But you mentioned the Steelers' offense went from looking so good last week against the Jets' defense, but now the Seahawks, that's not really that good. And it was really stagnant. Like DK Metcalf, this was his huge opportunity, and he could have realized that this was a huge possible game for him, like because it was a revenge game at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, the Steelers' offense is very stagnant. It has been for years, and we thought after last week at least Aaron Rodgers was going to bring some type of promise, and it seems like it's back to square one with them. So, you got anything to say, Spino? Or
No, Pittsburgh's defense has just been struggling lately. I don't know what, like, they have good corners with Slay, and they have good pass rush with T.J. Watt, Hayward, so they just have to figure it out.
And then what about your second point, Joe?
I said it within the – I didn't really go in depth with it, but it was mainly the fact, is Aaron Rodgers going to be a problem? Are they going to have to revolt to maybe trying something else out later in the year?
Yeah, and I think it's a very interesting topic to talk about. You just mentioned that, but I think at the end of the day, this is his last year. The only other options they have is Mason Rudolph and Will Howard, one who's a rookie and another guy who's kind of just been all around the league. So, but we'll see how he does. I forget who they're playing this week, but at this point, they get him to a winning record and they get to the playoffs. It seems like that's what they're consistent with and what they're happy with at the end of the day, which I, as a fan, I wouldn't be happy with, but they're consistent at this point, and Mike Tomlin likes to keep them that way. But you mentioned Aaron Rodgers. This defense has to show me something. This defense they got a lot of pieces added. But the one thing I mentioned that I knew was going to be an issue, you get Jalen Ramsey, yes, but you trade away your best safety in Mika Fitzpatrick, and you see the hole it puts into the defense. There was no reason whatsoever you needed Jonnu Smith in that trade, because now you have Jonnu Smith, you have Pat Freiermuth, and you have Darnell Washington. 3 tight ends on the roster, that's not necessary. I know Arthur Smith loves running his tight end sets, but to trade away a guy who's been a mainstay of your defense for a few years now, your captain in the secondary, for an older guy and a tight end that you really didn't need, it's going to show the need they need there. But it's going to be interesting to see. So, but I'm going to now go over my 2 points. The first thing I want to talk about, even though they did not win the game, I know me and you were talking about this last week. Malik Neighbors is definitely 10 times happier this week than he was last week, because on a random Sunday afternoon on September 14th, the Giants and the Cowboys had an absolute thriller. Russell Wilson looked like prime Russ all over again, the way he was delivering them deep balls. He had Malik Neighbors going for 137, 140 yards, and then Wan'Dale Robinson had over a 100-yard day. What were your guys' thoughts on that game as a whole?
I thought it was it's a game people, like, we saw on the schedule, we were like, all right, that's not going to be an interesting game. 2 low-level teams. Nobody really cared about or really thought how good of a game it was going to be, but the fact that it went to overtime, Aubrey showed out in this game, proved that he might be one of the best kickers in this league, if not the best. And I feel like it was an entertaining game for a 1 o'clock game, probably the most entertaining 1 o'clock game we had this week.
I think the Micah Parsons trade's really showing for the Cowboys because I mean, like the Giants put up 30-some points. Like they're not really getting much pressure, so I think that's what's going to hurt them this year, and they're just going to have to rebuild from there. I think Dak's going to get traded soon, so we'll just see where that goes.
Yeah. And my overall take about this game as a whole is Russell Wilson, as of right now, I know it's a week-to-week transition and the Cowboys' defense isn't looking that good, but my overall take is, can Russell Wilson be the bridge quarterback to the Giants possibly getting 7 to 8 wins this year and then possibly being that 6 to 7 seed next year? It remains to be seen, but we'll see. I think as of right now, the way he played, and if he continue it, like they're playing the Chiefs next week, if he goes out, if they get 50% of what they got out of that Russell Wilson game the rest of the year, they'll be in that range. They won't make the playoffs, but they'll look at themselves much improved. They'll add pieces, and then they'll be able to throw Jackson Dart in there after a year of sitting and see what he has to show, and then they'll have hopefully have an upgraded offensive line, and we'll see from there. But the second thing I want to talk about is Ben Johnson. Is it Ben Johnson or is it Caleb Williams? I want to get your guys' opinion on that, about how they started off 0-2 and really have looked shaky, especially in the second half and then overall in that game yesterday.
I think it's just a lot going wrong in Chicago. It's not really Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams' fault. I just feel like it's all about connections and like who you matchups and who you play that week. I feel like they're struggling. I feel like they have room to grow. It's still week 2. It's so early to call anything, but I feel like it could be either a long season for Chicago fans if they don't get it together, or hopefully they do, and it's very entertaining to see how Caleb Williams continues to grow.
I think it's Caleb Williams. I mean, you can't be overthrowing your wide receivers like that. You have to give them the ball. I mean, we saw this last year too. So I think Bears are going to have to look themselves in the mirror and maybe move on from their quarterback. I've heard that they really like their backup because they signed him to a contract.
And before I get back onto that, just some breaking news during the episode. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have just taken the lead with 6 seconds left to go. So, they're
Who scored?
Rashid White. So,
damn it.
Yeah. So they just took the 1 point. They just took the 1 point lead. They're about to go to 2. But just breaking news, middle of the episode, Tampa Bay looks like they're on their way of being 2-0. So.
Damn it! I need a Booger to get 40 more points in order for me to win this week.
The guy playing has Bucky Irving. Let's go that he didn't get a touchdown.
So let's wrap up this episode with the special guest himself, Spino. What were your overall two takes you took from week 2?
I'm gonna go with the AFC champs, the Chiefs. They're really struggling without their 2 wide receivers and Xavier Worthy and Rashid Rice. You're seeing it. They're having to throw to Thornton. Like it's just all around tragic over there in KC.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because the Chiefs, this is very unorthodox for them. Like, I know I use this word a lot, but it literally is the definition. This is very uncommon for them. Like, you see that, you never see this with them. Like, this is Mahomes' first time ever starting 0-2 as a starting quarterback. I think this is the first time they started 0-2 since, like, 2014, 2015. But still, this team looks completely discombobulated. Their defense has been healthy, but just not been able to make plays. But their offense, obviously, they're missing pieces, but it still doesn't look good. Kelsey had a huge drop yesterday that led to the turning point of getting that interception by Makuba, which was a great play, by the way. I think he was the player of the game as overall. But moving on, the Chiefs just look completely dysfunctional. Justin Herbert play his best game in a while against them last week, and their offense just looks very stagnant. I'm going to be interested to see what they do with Rashid Rice and Xavier Worthy when he gets back. Like, the Worthy most likely could come back next week, which would be huge for them. But Rashid Rice being an idiot is now costing them tremendously. So, but it remains to see what will happen. But I think it's very interesting. They have the Giants next week. If they somehow lose to them, I think everything is like it's going to be all over the place of cause for concern now, I think. So.
Yeah, I touched base on this last week with my takes. We pointed out, Zach, me and you, the fact that now they're out there star receivers. There's not that many people that you're going to need to cover. Got Hollywood Brown and Kelsey, so you got those two big names, you lock them down, you lock down the running game with Hunt, you're not really as big as a threat. Now, Mahomes shown that he can scramble a little bit, that he can get out of the pocket and move, but that could only do so much, and that could also cause concern for you to get high likely more to get injured. And that's the last thing you want to see. Both your receivers out and your starting quarterback, you might as well call it a wrap for the season.
Yeah, you talked about Kelsey. He hasn't been like in his prime Kelsey form in like a couple years, so I think there's concern right there.
Yeah. And then your second take?
The Bengals, Joe Burrow's out 12, 14 weeks. They're not going to do nothing with that. Their O-line needs to do something. They have to get O-line in the draft, free agency. We saw this with Andrew Luck, 6 seasons. Burrow's in his 6th season. We have to see how this offseason works.
Mm-hmm. So, are you going to go ahead, Joe?
Yeah, the Bengals, you saw in the Super Bowl a couple years ago with the Rams. If they had an offensive lineman, they win that Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
That's just going to keep hurting them.
Yep, I was about to say that, Spino. I was about to say this has been the story not even just these past few years, including that Super Bowl, since the beginning of his tenure as a Cincinnati Bengal. We've seen it happen again and again, but they tried to not make that change. You're not protecting your quarterback, and he was the face of your team. Him and Chase, the LSU combo, boom, Super Bowl. You had the like every other team that we've talked about so far. They have the keys to be a successful team, yet you're not building it the right way you're supposed to.
You can only have much talent as a wide receiver as the offensive lineman's given you. You can have whoever out there, but if you're getting stacked in like 30 seconds, you can't throw it to Chase or T. Higgins.
Yeah.
I feel like the best comparison, sorry, Zach, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I feel like the best comparison is the Philadelphia Eagles. As we saw yesterday, Hurts would have 5 to 7 seconds in the pocket, not really having to worry. He could just dish it off to one of the running backs or a nice little 5-yard game pass. Burrow is going to have it's hike and like I don't know if you guys ever seen the Family Guy clip, but he hikes the ball, still he hikes the ball, and it's like, oh, and nobody's blocking. That's exactly what it's going right now for the Cincinnati Bengals. You're going to continue getting your guys hurt, and I'm just sorry if I was the Cincinnati Bengals quarterback because your percentage of getting hurt is very high if they don't decide to block.
Yeah. At the end of the day, Joe Burrow is a great quarterback. He's in that 4 horsemen of quarterbacks in the league, and he's had opportunities to get every time he's been healthy, except for last year, he's gotten them to at least the AFC Championship game. He's that big. He's that big play player. He makes the big time plays when you need him. And obviously last year their defense was terrible. Their defense is still not good. I'm really surprised they're 2-0 right now. This is a weird starting for them. But now losing Joe Burrow, Jake Browning, he was all right when he had to come in 2023, but he's no Joe Burrow. And that instant connection and Jamar Chase already had a good game, I know, with Jake Browning, but that's not always going to continue. Their offense is all right. And now if Jake Browning gets hurt, I think they're down to Brent Rippon right now. Honestly, I think their best case scenario isn't starting Jake Browning. I know this team isn't interested, but the best bet for the Bengals right now is to call up the Falcons. What can I get for Kirk Cousins? What will it take to get Kirk Cousins? I don't know if you guys feel that same way, but that's how I feel. Go ahead.
I hear there's a rookie quarterback on the Browns who's not really getting much playing time. Shador. I feel like when you give them a call, we could see Shador. It's only a 2-hour visit. Just saying.
I have been hearing that. You have Jamar Chase and Shador can run a little bit, so you see what you got.
And it's not like the Browns will be fretting from the quarterback room. You got Flacco, and then you could also have another rookie stud from Oregon, Dylan Gabriel, who could also lead this offense later in the years. So now you're not just wasting 2 rookie talents.
I don't think Shador would cost much to get either. He's not first round worthy.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that's something I haven't heard yet, but definitely makes a lot of sense. Like with Shador, like I don't know, like I know he had these crazy stuff. Like everyone, he was the talk of the draft. But I mean, like at the end of the day, him to get traded there, obviously Cleveland wanted him. But at the same time, they had no desire to start him because they're not like if they really wanted to. Because the Browns, you look at their team, they're not winning jack shit. They had no reason. They had no reason. They had no reason to play Joe Flacco. They're just they if they wanted to see what they had in the future, they would have played Shador by now. Like because now they're 0-2. But I think it's a very interesting way to look at things. But it remains to be seen what will happen. So, but I mean, to wrap things up, do you guys have anything else you want to mention NFL wise that you guys took away from week 2, or do you guys want to get to the recap?
Um, no, I think we hit on every point. Um, Bryce Young almost came back against the Cardinals. That's my only point. We were talking about him last week.
Yeah.
I just want to take a minute for the Miami Dolphins. Oof, oof, ooh, you let Danny Dimes run all over you. That's not good.
Yeah.
2
Indiana.
weeks, week 1, and then they just lost this week. It's not looking good over there in Miami.
Yeah. I think we'll wrap it up with Indiana Jones right now is 2-0 after beating the Dolphins and the Broncos. What else he continues to do will remain to be seen, but it will definitely be a storyline on here to talk about every week. That is for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But we're gonna talk about something that we'll probably preview for the next show. The Phillies. Obviously, they've been playing really well as of late. They just lost yesterday with the chance to win the division to win the division, and against Kansas City Royals. Obviously, they had the opportunity tonight. They're already in the playoffs. We already knew that was happening. That was not much to us. But they had the opportunity to win the division against the Dodgers tonight. Do you guys think they do it tonight? And also, what are you guys looking forward to most in this series? Is this probably the biggest series left we have in the season?
Spino, you can take it first.
All right. I think they get it done tonight. They have Ranger Suarez on the bump. I mean, you just see in the playoffs, he's cool, calm, and collected. So it's going to be like a playoff-like game. The Rangers going to go 7, at least 7, maybe 2 runs. And we just got to hope the Phillies bats get it. We saw that in the playoffs last year where they bats just were dead. So that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I also think they might be able to get it done tonight, but then you got to also think, I think this is a question we can answer on our next episode, Zach. Once they clinch the division, how hard are you willing to fight, or how long are you willing to play your starters to get that home field advantage to go after Milwaukee Brewers? I feel like that would be a good point to talk about on our next podcast, depicting on whether we decide to wait until after the Dodgers series and recap that, or what we should do.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting topic to talk about because even after the Dodgers series, like we could talk about it during their next series or the final week of the season because every game is meaningful even after you win the division because you've put yourself in a situation to take the 1 seed and have, like you said, home field advantage all throughout the playoffs. If you can do that, remains to be seen. But this team, if they honestly believe they are that World Series championship team, they'll play as long as they can until if they really care about winning a World Series, they'll play till 162 to try to win that number 1 seed. If they really care about that. But if they only care about winning the division and possibly getting the 2 seed, we'll see. This Dodgers series can pretty much solidify themselves as the number 2 seed if they were able to win it. But we'll see. I honestly think, like I said this, with the Mets series, we talked about this. I was satisfied with 3 out of 4 and then 2 out of 3 with the Dodgers. Obviously, it was an amazing sweep. We took all 4 against them. That was an amazing series. Honestly, I think it tops probably the Seattle series just because of how impactful it was and the impact you made every single game, especially the last game, coming back down for 4-0, scoring all those runs, and Jesus Luzardo getting 22 straight outs is absolutely incredible. And then Johan Duran shutting the door down with making Pete Alonso, Juan Soto, and Mark Vientos all look silly. So, but it will remain to be seen. I'm excited to talk about our next episode, see where they are when we get to that point. But to wrap up the show, obviously, you guys have all seen it. We have reached 200 subscribers. Thank you guys all for doing that. Continue to follow the Instagram as well because we did get a lot of followers from that. But obviously, I did post a poll. Give me your best ideas. I'm trying to get this challenge done for you guys, and then keep sharing, keep getting the word out there because we're just trying to grow as a brand. We're trying to give you guys the best content every week. And other than that, that should wrap up today's show. Thanks again for Spino for coming on and giving us your best takes, and hopefully have you on in the near future. But like I said, this is going to wrap up another episode of Two Mics All Sports. Enjoy the rest of your night, guys, and we'll talk to you later. Peace.